What is up, horror fans, and welcome to the first episode of Bloodbath Horror Talk, the podcast where we talk about horror and the horror community because, let's face it, a lot of us love horror, myself included. Horror is one of my favorite genres of movie. If you tell me I couldn't watch a horror movie, that would be telling me like I couldn't go to a family reunion. Otherwise, we're going to talk a little bit about several different horror movies for this first episode. We're probably going to talk a little bit about Halloween, Scream, Happy Death Day, and Thanksgiving, because those are four of my favorite horror movies. I mean, specifically we'll be talking about Halloween 2018, not the 1978 original, but at some point on this show we will talk about the 1978 original. But Halloween 2018, let's start off with that one, because that one's one of my favorite horror movies. Though it does take place 40 years after Michael Myers did the massacre in 1978 in the first movie, because, let's face it, it's been said that Halloween 2018 is basically a direct sequel to the original 1978 film, except with no familial relationship between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. So, it kind of works out in two different aspects there. But it's one of my favorite horror movies, mainly because it has a pretty good plot to it. I like it. I like the fact that Michael Myers comes back 40 years later only to torment Laurie Strode and the rest of her family, because that's a plot device I can work with, It's something sort of in the vein of what movies are trying to do nowadays, such as the recent I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I have yet to see, but eventually I will see it. That pretty much being said, yeah, I mean, horror movies are just great. Like, a lot of them are just great. A lot of them are terrible. I mean, I've had my experience with terrible horror movies. Sometimes I will go and intentionally watch a terrible horror movie just because I want to see how low budget and horrible it can be. And if I don't like it, well, then I just switch my TV off and call it good. Because I don't want to watch no low-down redneck bullshit that could possibly span like 20 to 30 minutes just before I get into the whole fucking who's gonna die segment before I get to the who's gonna die segment in the film. I'm already laughing at how horrible and how low budget it looks. And I'm not talking about Halloween 2018, because that is a very high budget horror movie. It has some pretty good gore effects too. Like, I love what the effects designer for that movie did. I absolutely do. And, that being said, having a Halloween 2018 mask behind me, that was made off of the original molds that were used in the movie, because it's a Trick or Treat Studios mask, much like John Carver and Babyface back there as well. But yeah, Halloween 2018 is just one of those horror movies that I go back and watch almost every year around Halloween time, because I can't get enough of it. It's just, it has some of the best gore, some of the best kills, and yeah, it has a fight between Laurie and Michael. And then after that, Halloween Kills comes around. I love Halloween Kills as well, because I love the look of the mask in that movie. Like, holy shit. I mean, you can't get a better mask than what the effects designer does for those movies. I mean, the 1978 original is a pretty nice mask, but that is just like one incredible mask right there. Like, that is being off the movie molds too, it being a Trick or Treat Studios mask, and it being off of the molds that they actually used to make the screen-used mask is just crazy that you can get that for like $50. And it's like that cheap. And it's crazy, But, anyway, yeah, I love the Blumhouse Halloween trilogy. It's really good in its own way. It's really good in its own way. I also like Happy Death Day, which is another film that was produced by Blumhouse, and it really works. I like the Groundhog Day plot to it, because it's really funny. The Groundhog Day plot is just really funny. that she just keeps dying and has to relive the same day over and over again. It just kind of gets funnier and funnier as you go along. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good horror comedy. There is seriously nothing wrong with a good horror comedy. Once you have a good mix between horror and comedy, that's when you kind of got something going. If you didn't have a good mix between horror and comedy in a comedy horror movie, you probably wouldn't have too good a mix there. That's all I'm saying. You need to have a good mix between comedy and horror in your movie for both of the genres to kind of intertwine together like that. You know? It's kind of a similar thing with Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving is a lot less funny and a lot more gory. But Happy Death Day is just such a great movie, and it's funny at the same time. Happy Death Day to You is pretty good too, but it focuses more on comedy than it does any kind of horror elements. In my mind, the first one focused on a little bit of comedy, a little bit of horror in between. Because the horror elements really come in when Tree is being repeatedly murdered by Laurie. And it helps to know that this time loop is something that we have to work with now. Like, this time loop is just something that has to be taken into effect into the movie, and you have to be able to focus on, alright, where's the time loop gonna end? Probably after the main threat is dead. When is it going to start back up again? And we don't get that answer until the first movie, when we realize that this sissy machine, not the first movie, but the second movie, until we realize this whole sissy machine kind of started the loop possibly in the first movie. I don't know that to be a fact. I don't know that Sissy created the loop in the first movie. I want to believe that Sissy created the loop in the first movie, but I just can't believe it. It just seems like it's just like a stretch to say that it was Sissy's fault that the loop happened in the first movie. But I can say that that is a very high possibility. Like, Sissy in the first movie could have misfired. That's why Tree got stuck in the time loop and had to do all this shit to try and get out of it. Because what are you going to do if you're stuck in a time loop? Just sit there and wait until you get unstuck? Yeah, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to try and survive the killer that's coming after you in this time loop. And that's just what I like about Happy Death Day, that, killed with a fascinating plot, and I like the baby face mask, too. And the reason, and the story behind it is cool, too. The fact that the director of the film, Christopher Landon, was expecting a child at that period of time, so he had baby on the brain and also wanted something creepy that looks like it would be on a college campus. That's also like, it's like, yeah, you want something creepy that looks like it can be a mascot on a college campus, a baby. Or maybe even something else along the lines of a baby. But, the baby turned out to be very creepy. And that's what I like about that mask. It's just, it's a little creepy smile. It's a little creepy smile. It's big-ass, creepy-looking eyes that just kind of haunt your soul until you realize that, the eyes looking at you might just kill you soon enough, but hell, who knows? But yeah, another movie I really love, and the mask in the movie I really love as well, is Thanksgiving and the John Carver mask. Because that John Carver mask is a really great concept. Like, the fact that you have a town that's representing Thanksgiving enough to have a mask of a famous pilgrim, a famous historical pilgrim, is awesome. And I mean, I love the plot behind Thanksgiving as well. Like, Black Friday riot, people die, some guy loses a woman who he's having an affair with, and then begins killing people dressed as John Carver. It's crazy. I love these movie plot devices, though. I mean, another horror movie I do really like, and I didn't really plan to talk about in this episode, but I'll talk about it anyway, is You're Next. And that's why this mask right here is inspired by that movie. But it's the mask to one of my created horror characters, the farmer. But, it's inspired off of You're Next. And I love that because I loved the movie You're Next. I loved it. It's such a good movie, you know? Like, you have this plot where these guys are like home invaders coming in to try and kill this whole entire family, but then it ends up that three members are working with the killers to try and get some sort of big ass inheritance that's coming in for all of them, and then you've got this one woman just killing all of these bad guys on her own. The most gruesome kill in that movie to me, though, has to be when she shoves that blender in that one dude's head. Because it's like, well, you're not expecting that. I mean, you're expecting her to shove... I mean, she shoves it in her head and then starts the fucking thing. And there is blood spraying everywhere, and his brains are actively turning into a smoothie. Okay, we're actively about to have a brain smoothie in this scenario here, and that is frankly just... what are you gonna do, you know? That's frankly just, oh hell, that's brutal, that's disgusting. Why would you... oh god. That's what you're thinking when you watch a horror movie sometimes. Now let's talk about low-budget, stupid horror movies, because I love stupid horror movies. The most recent movie that I love that's stupid is The Mousetrap. It's cheesy, it's stupid, no pun intended, but I love it. It's like, I can sit there and watch this horror movie and somehow love it, even though it's frankly stupid. Even though the Mousetrap is frankly a dumbass movie, I somehow love it. I somehow love a movie about a guy dressed as Mickey Mouse going around killing people. Who can teleport? A 40-year-old man who can teleport. Explain that to me. Explain to me why your movie plot device was a guy who puts on a Steamboat Willie mask and goes off killing people and can teleport. And he's 45 years old too, possibly with back issues. There's something about that movie plot that just makes me laugh, because it's like, why? Why was that your go-to movie plot? Why did that have to be your go-to movie plot? Like, you had so many other plots you could have went with in your head, yet you just stuck to the plot of, oh yeah, let's have a 46-year-old man killing teenagers, dressing up as Mickey Mouse, who can fucking teleport. That is a great movie idea. Let's have a 40-plus-year-old man who can fucking teleport. And that was the only thing that you had in your head. Like, you had to be on some severe drugs, some sort of, like, you had to be high off of marijuana, on some sort of drugs to even come up with that idea. Of a guy who puts on a Steamboat Willie mask, dressed in a hockey uniform for whatever reason, who is killing kids in a Chuck E. Cheese type building, and shit like that. Because that's clearly some, like, what? Like, seriously? That's your plot device? What kind of fucking plot device? Why do you have to do that? Yeah. But, again, some horror movies are really good, such as, like, My Bloody Valentine. That's another good horror movie, you know, My Bloody Valentine, especially the 2009 version, because in my mind, the 2009 version of My Bloody Valentine has better gore effects than the modern, than, like, the 1980s version of My Bloody Valentine. You know, you got this town in the throes of Valentine's Day, and now people are dying to a minor. And I ain't talking about a child. I'm talking about a guy dressed in mining gear with a pickaxe in his hand who's killing people because they want to have a Valentine's Day dance. But it's actually done in a way that I love it. It's not a dumb horror movie. Yes, it's low budget when it comes to the 1980s. But it's still funny. Some of the scenes are funny, and some of them are just downright brutal. Like, especially when you're getting a pickaxe shoved through your chin, and then your eye is coming out along with the other side of the blade. Like, just imagine that for a second. There's a pickaxe going up through your chin, and the other tip of it comes through because it's, like, sideways like this, and the other tip is coming through this eye right here. and the tip of it is now sticking out your eye because it's up through your goddamn, like, this area right here. That was a pretty good effect in that movie, too. I loved it. In my mind, it's better than the cheap eye pop. It's better than the cheap eye popping effect from Friday the 13th Part 3. Like, I know you want to have 3D, but it'll at least have some sort of... I mean, I understand it was the 1980s and editing software wasn't really as big as it is today. Or there was, like, really no editing software where you could edit out, like, the string that or, like, the rail that a popping eyeball was, like, on. But, like, still, you could try to, like, find some way to remedy that rail not being seen in the movie. But, yeah. And, I mean, now we're just talking about movie effects, because there are some really good effects out there. Like, people like Christopher Nelson, who worked on Halloween and did that mask back there, they... not that exact copy of the Trick or Treat Studios mask, but he probably helped work on a few copies, or just gave him the mold and called it good. But still, you know, you have to have a really good effects worker when you're working on a horror movie. You can't just have, like, some sort of mediocre effects person working on your movie. You gotta have, like, a really, really good effects person working on a movie. If you don't, then the movie just isn't worth it. You know? Like, sometimes, even a horror movie, like, say, maybe... I don't know. I don't know. Say a horror movie, maybe like, I don't know. But say maybe, like, a horror movie, something in the vein of, like, Carrie. You know, Carrie is a pretty good horror movie, but I don't really like it that much. I don't like any version of the movie Carrie, to be honest. I mean, even that modern Chloe Grace Moretz version just even fucking sucks. I don't like Carrie at all, to be honest with you. I mean, sure, Carrie has its good moments, but it's not really my cup of tea. Neither is Christine. Christine is a horror movie that I don't really like either, and who doesn't know what Christine is? You know? Christine is a movie about a car. A car that is somehow haunted by a person who can use his spirit to manipulate that car and go kill people as that car. What? How was that your horror movie plot point right there? How is that your plot point? Oh yeah, let's send a car after people. Let's send a car after people. Alright? Anyway, we're going to take a quick break right here, and then we will come right back. What is up, folks? We are back. So, we're going to talk about some horror movies that I wish we could see in our modern day today. And such as a movie like, say, maybe a Jeff the Killer movie. I guarantee a lot of us have heard of that creepypasta, and I guarantee a lot of us, a majority of us horror fans, would love to see a Jeff the Killer movie. Including me. I would absolutely kill to see a Jeff the Killer movie. No pun intended. Just kidding, all the puns are intended. Otherwise, yeah, I would absolutely love to see a Jeff the Killer movie. It would probably be, like, a really good one, too. Like, it would have to be a really good one. Like, the story would have to be really good, the plot would have to be really good. Who knows, they'd probably just focus maybe more onto Jeff's backstory than anything else. You know? Another horror movie I would really... Well, actually, more like a horror game. Let's not talk about horror games, but I am going to tell you guys about a horror game that I'd love to see. And I know there are a lot of games out there that are kind of on this plot, but I would love to see a genuine Blair Witch Project horror game, where it looks like an analog horror video, but you're playing a video game. That's what I want to see. a game where you're out in the middle of the woods, just you're camping, and this is the plot of the game I'm going into. You're camping, and a whole bunch of supernatural shit is just taking place around you. And you don't know whether you're going to die, you don't know what's going to happen, you're just trying to figure it all out. And once you put the pieces together, you realize that it might just be the Blair Witch. Or whatever. It doesn't have to be a direct Blair Witch game. It could just be a game about you camping in the woods while a whole bunch of supernatural shit takes place. It doesn't exactly have to be tied to the Blair Witch, though it could have Blair Witch references, you know? But that's just my thought process. Other than that, yeah. Let's talk about another horror movie I would like to see. A possible part 2 to Mickey's Mousetrap, or The Mousetrap, which I know isn't a possibility, but I'd really want to see what a part 2 to The Mousetrap would look like, honestly. I don't know. But, let's talk about Scream 7, because we have Scream 5, we have Scream 6, Scream 2022 basically being Scream 5. Scream 6 is my favorite out of those two, because the mask, everything just looks great, and as you could tell, I have my Fun World Scream 6 mask above me, which I will be covering in another episode of Haunted Hallway Reviews, but until then, stick with us here on this show. Otherwise, yeah. But I want Scream 7 to bring back Sidney Prescott, but I don't know why. I still think we need Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega to be in that movie somewhere, too. I don't know why. I feel like we would need them to be in that movie for it to be good. Because in my mind, Scream 7 cannot be complete without Melissa Barrera or Jenna Ortega. Because they were in Scream 5 and Scream 6. If you don't have them in Scream 7 to round out, maybe even end off the whole Scream series with a bang, then that right there will ruin the movie for me. I mean, even if you just have Sydney and maybe even some other legacy characters in it that hadn't died, I mean, basically all of them died, I mean, seriously. For real. But, I just don't want any kind of new Scream movie. I just don't want Scream 7 to suck. I want them to take their time with Scream 7. That's what I want. I want whoever is bringing Scream 7 out, I want them to take their time with it and take the time to make it into a good movie. I really want to see a good movie with a good plot. And if that's what we can get, then I will be happy. I will be happy if we at least have a movie with a good plot. So there's that. But yeah. One movie that I really wanted to see when I saw the trailer for it was Until Dawn. Because that looks like a pretty damn good video game adaptation right there. Like, when you make a movie adaptation of a video game, you better hope it's good. The Assassin's Creed movie being one of my favorite movies because, in my mind, it is faithful to the games. It has the references you need for it to be faithful to the games. The Animus might not be faithful, but hey, let's say this. They could have been putting that one together for a while. They could have been putting that new Abstergo facility together for a while. But we're talking about horror movies here. We're not talking about fucking Assassin's Creed. I don't know why I went off on that, but, I would love that. I would absolutely love to see another, I don't plan to watch Popeye the Slayer Man at all. Popeye the Slayer Man just looks like it sucks. Frankly, it does. Like, honestly, the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie is great. I haven't seen the second one, but I love the first one. It has, it's just an all-around great horror movie, you know? And then it's like, you know, Sleepaway Camp. Let's talk about those movies for a minute, because the Sleepaway Camp movies are another incredible example of great low-budget horror movies. Because you have this plot device from the get-go, where, yes, the parents of the killer are killed, or the parent and the brother, or the parent and the sister are killed, but then the brother is raised to believe that he's the sister Angela. You know, and it's crazy because it's basically, you know, what in my mind is, here's what was happening when the killer was killing people in Sleepaway Camp, the first movie to be exact. What I what I believe to be happening in that movie was, she didn't wear any makeup, right? She didn't wear any makeup. She didn't wear nothing. She just dressed up as a boy. She just went back into her boy counterpart and started killing people looking like the boy. You know, in her, she was killing people and using the fact that she was still basically a boy as a disguise. And that's a good horror movie plot right there, when you don't need a mask or nothing. All you need is just that. Just the fact that... Okay, we're going to take a quick break here, my god. And we are back. Yeah, we were talking about Sleepaway Camp. So, you know, everybody in that movie was really good at their job. Felissa Rose was such a good actress in that movie. You know... And, you know, I forgot who played the brother in that movie, but still. Sleepaway Camp is just a really good movie. My favorite one being Sleepaway Camp 2, even though it's a lot more sleazy. And this time it's like teenagers at a camp all having sex and going off and doing other shit that I don't even fucking... You know. But it's another one of my favorite ones, because it kind of... To me, Sleepaway Camp 1 and 2 are equal with the gore. But actually, the one that puts the original Sleepaway Camp above it is that curling iron kill. Excuse me. But yeah. Let's just say, when you shove a hot curling iron up into another girl's that really raises the that really raises the aspect of a kill in a horror movie, because that is a kill that would probably make you puke watching the movie while you're fucking... I mean, they don't show anything explicit, but just the fact that it's there, just the fact that you probably know what's happening if you're a fan of Sleepaway Camp, and the fact that you could... It would probably... That scene, even the visual, because I think you're supposed to, like, from that scene, I think you're supposed to gain a visual of what's happening to her, and trust me, you will not like that visual of what's happening to Angela Baker's victim in that scene. You know? But another horror movie franchise that I really enjoy is I Know What You Did Last Summer. The classic movie is really good. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is very good. And I haven't seen I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. But I feel like I should binge watch the classic movies before I eventually go watch the new version. And, you know, that's something. But, yeah. If I watch the original movies first, I'll probably get a better understanding of what's happening in this newer movie. So, yeah. I don't know if I need a better understanding of what's happening in the newer movie. I really don't. But we'll see. We'll see. Otherwise, let's talk about Pet Sematary. Because Pet Sematary happens to actually be one of the best Stephen King horror movie adaptations I've ever seen, especially the classic one, where Judd Crandall is played by Fred Gwynne. You ain't got no better actor in that movie than Fred Gwynne. Alright? You got fucking Herman Munster in a Pet Sematary movie. That's why the classic Pet Sematary is a classic. Cause you got fucking Herman Munster in that bitch. You ain't got... none of those actors even come as close to Fred Gwynne as they're supposed to be, okay? No one will ever replace Fred Gwynne. And that's all I gotta say about that. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this episode of Bloodbath Horror Talk here. It was just supposed to be kind of a short little introductory episode to get you accustomed to what we're gonna be talking about here. So, yeah, next episode we will be talking about horror movies such as Children of the Corn, Creep Show, Friday the 13th, and the Halloween franchise. So, with that being said, I hope you have a spooky afternoon, and we will see you guys in the next episode of Bloodbath Horror Talk. Thank you for tuning in.